Right, let's get into part 2 of the Trump debate and Brexit, and where we've kind of ended 2016 and started 2017. Kind of part 1 I mentioned about the importance of Theresa May having the kahunas to stick to the plan, but I watched Trump's inauguration the other day with almost a wry smile, really. It was a bit of an odd one. I know that Trump's outspoken, but if you try and take the emotional out of it, if you try and focus on a more pragmatic attitude towards Trump and the current position that America find themselves in, the current economic situation the country find themselves in, when you consider America's place in the global economy, Donald Trump probably isn't such a bad option. You know, the guy is a successful businessman. I know there's an element of hypocrisy because he's utilised these various tax loopholes to his own business's benefit. But any good businessman will utilise whatever tools are available to them to give them an advantage. You know, that shouldn't be considered a bad thing. I also think it's interesting that Trump has consistently wanted to not necessarily attack the political establishment, because I think that's probably the wrong way of putting it, but to challenge it, to challenge its authenticity, to make a genuine attempt to do things differently. And if you look at the kind of people that he's bringing in, you know, it does seem to confirm that viewpoint, which can only be considered a good thing, in my opinion. Not that my opinion means a great deal, because it's there for my two penneth that I put in. America politically at the minute seems to be in a strange place. Like I said, a friend of mine recently said to me, he said, "Oh, you've got to remember though that America are politically not very intelligent." Which I've got to be honest, I completely disagree with. I think that they can be a bit politically naive, like I've already said. I think that they can, I think any system that puts an emphasis on one individual is a little bit strange. Maybe, as the great Joe Rogan says, it's probably an outdated model. But, my biggest concern with America, and particularly this recent presidential election, is how the hell did America get themselves into a position where the best two options were Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump? When we consider the guys that were burned off along the way, and the manner in which they were burned off, America does have this political system that seems to be particularly, I suppose it's not just the presidency, it's about power, influence and money, I think it's important to point out that Donald Trump paid for his own election, his own campaigning. He spent nowhere near as much as Hillary Clinton, something that's been massively misrepresented in the press. And I'm not saying he fought his campaign in some righteous and politically correct manner, because he didn't, and I don't actually think that's Donald Trump's style. And if you want to take to the extremes, if you believe the American narrative of 9/11, if he implemented his non-Muslim policy, which, if I'm honest, is distasteful. However, if we believe the narrative of 9/11, 9/11 would never have happened. Are blanket judgments acceptable in modern society? Personally, no. I think we all have the right to be judged on our own merits, in our own individual, personas. Whether that, again, is, for me, is a naive view, maybe so. Fuck's sake. Sorry. Anyway, where do America find themselves currently? They find themselves with a president that I think won his presidency fair and square. I still confirm to the view that Clinton, she gave the presidency away. You know, she placed herself into a position where I think two things happened when American voters got into the polling booths. They were left with this probably uncomfortable feeling of, do we really want another 8 years of Clinton? Of the Clinton way of doing things. The Clintons are, I think they've been a toxic brand for a long time. I genuinely do believe that. I think they've been a toxic brand for quite a while now, and I think that probably put Hillary at a disadvantage anyway. And then with all the kind of email server crap, that I don't think it was just that, it was the fact that she stood there and she blatantly lied. I think did put her at a particularly sticky disadvantage. But regardless, what America needs to do, they need to sit down and think, well, okay, you know, we're here now. I think when the American voters got into that polling booth, I think, and this is the reason why I think Trump won, was that they had almost this moment of clarity where they knew they had to think about the problem as pragmatically as they could, and they weighed up the pros and cons in their head and realised, you know, it wasn't just about assessing the balance of two lesser evils, or the lesser of two evils, but it was actually about, I may not particularly like this person, and I may not necessarily align many views with this person, but I actually think they're going to do the better job for my country. And I think when you consider the problems that have dogged, you know, the Clinton Foundation, and, you know, the issues about Hillary's health, and, you know, the various other scandals that have contaminated Clan Clinton for, you know, the best part of 25 years, I think the American public just thought, no, this is a stretch too far. And I hope that America are making a choice based on the hope that Donald Trump can offer the country a more prosperous outcome. And I actually believe that to be true. I think you don't become as successful in business as Donald Trump without knowing a thing or two about global finances. I think that America's current financial position is pretty dire. I don't think, you know, you don't need to have a doctorate in economics to work that one out. You know, they are in a mess. And I think, you know, not going with the British model, because I don't genuinely think, you know, austerity has been proven to be pretty much a blanket failure. I think it's been well established that for any successful capitalist-based society, you know, we need to stimulate growth, which I think is why, you know, Donald Trump, in his first kind of interview with a British major newspaper, with the Times, you know, he made that point very clear, that there was an importance to get a trade agreement established. And I think this is one of the things that people seem to be choosing to forget, because one of the things I've noticed with the presidential electoral debate and the Brexit debate is this massive, overwhelming evidence of confirmation bias. on both sides of the Atlantic. I think it's a really strange thing that people that I considered to be really intelligent, both political pundits and people that I know on my friends list who I assumed were really sharp political animals and knew their shit, were very good at providing me evidence that supported their argument. And I think if you want to look at a successful economy in the European Union, one of the most successful is Germany. Germany were very clear within hours of the exit vote being confirmed, were knowing the importance of establishing independent trade deals. I'm fairly confident in saying that the vast majority of German cars sold within the European Union are sold to the UK. So you've got the Volkswagen and Audi group, BMW, all realising, and Mercedes, right? This is a massive market, and we don't want to get caught into a position where the UK can't afford to import our cars and we can't afford to export them. So for people the power isn't with the EU. They are in a more difficult position than we are. I think Donald Trump realises this, and like I've said previously, Donald Trump's first priority is going to be American interests, but that doesn't by proxy automatically mean to the detriment of the UK. And it's probably going to take us, if Article 50 gets triggered in March, it gives us 2 years. You're probably looking to get these trade agreements ready to sign. You're probably going to be looking at a minimum of 18 months anyway, and then we've got kind of a 6-month buffer zone to get all the deals signed. I think it's quite a telling statistic when you look across now that we have more countries wanting trade agreements than we did from our trading partners within the EU. So all these individuals this does, for me, hinge on us coming out of the single market. For this economic experiment to work to its fullest, and for us to end up with the correct hypothesis that a lot of economists have been talking about, we need to have an exit strategy from the single market. I do think that's incredibly important, and I'm genuinely warm to the fact that Theresa May appears to be hinting at that. So that's kind of my view on America and the presidential. I think that America just needs to shut the fuck up now, back down, accept what's happened, and make the best out of that situation. Carrying on bleating about it is just not going to work. In part 3 of this bit, I want to look at general attitudes about the Brexit vote and how it's kind of left our current political structure, which I think is really interesting at the minute, and particularly the state of the Conservative Party, and how this then benefits kind of Labour's stance, and maybe more importantly the Liberal Democrats, who could really utilise this kind of turmoil at the minute to re-establish their dying brand. But we'll move on to that in part 3. Cheers.